Imagine standing under a burning sky, sweating through a heat wave that seems to have no mercy, while somewhere else on Earth, rivers are overflowing, crops are failing, and entire communities are preparing for drought, disease, or fire. Now imagine that part of this chaos begins not in the clouds above us, but in the surface of the Pacific Ocean. That is where the story of El Niño begins. El Niño sounds like one of those terms people hear on the news, nod at politely, and then forget 5 seconds later. But this phenomenon is not background noise. It is one of the most powerful climate patterns on the planet. It can tilt weather systems, reshape rainfall, push temperatures higher, disturb oceans, stress agriculture, and quietly affect everything from food supply to public health. In other words, El Niño is not just a science word, it is a global chain reaction. To understand El Niño, we first need to understand what the tropical Pacific Ocean normally does. In an ordinary year, strong trade winds blow from east to west across the equatorial Pacific. These winds push warm surface water toward the western Pacific, closer to places like Indonesia and Australia. Because the warm water is piled up there, the western Pacific becomes a zone of rising moist air, clouds, and frequent rain. Meanwhile, along the western coast of South America, colder water rises from deeper below the ocean's surface. This process, called upwelling, brings nutrients upward and supports rich marine life. That normal setup acts like a giant climate engine. Warm water, winds, rising air, sinking air, clouds, and currents all work together in a fairly recognizable pattern. But then the engine starts to wobble. During El Niño, the trade winds weaken. Sometimes they weaken a little, sometimes they weaken dramatically. When that happens, the warm water that was normally pushed toward the western Pacific begins to slide back eastward across the ocean. The central and eastern tropical Pacific become warmer than usual. That may sound small, just a change in sea surface temperature, but in climate terms, it is like moving the control panel for tropical rainfall. Warm ocean water heats the air above it. Warm, moist air rises more easily. Clouds and storms begin forming over parts of the Pacific where they normally would not dominate so strongly. That shift changes atmospheric circulation, which then influences jet streams, storm tracks, monsoons, and rainfall patterns far beyond the Pacific itself. One ocean basin changes, and weather across the globe starts behaving differently. This is why El Niño can feel so unfair. One region may suffer drought, another may receive intense rainfall and flooding. Some places see fewer storms, others see more destructive weather. It's not a simple, everywhere gets hotter and drier story. El Niño rearranges the pattern. It changes where heat sits, where moisture rises, and where rain is most likely to fall. Now, here's the part that makes El Niño especially important. It doesn't only affect weather in the abstract, it affects systems people depend on every day. Agriculture is one of the clearest examples. Crops are built around timing. Farmers depend on seasonal expectations. Rain has to arrive when seeds need it, not weeks too early or too late. Heat cannot become extreme during vulnerable growth stages without consequences. If El Niño shifts rainfall or boosts temperature, yields may drop. That can damage local livelihoods and sometimes push food prices upward. Water systems can also be stressed. In drought-prone regions, reduced rainfall may lower reservoir levels, hurt irrigation, and increase competition for limited water. In flood-prone regions, extreme rain can damage roads, homes, hospitals, and sanitation systems. It's one thing to say the climate changed. It's another thing entirely when drinking water, electricity demand, and crop survival all begin to move in the wrong direction at the same time. Then there is the ocean itself. El Niño can suppress upwelling in parts of the eastern Pacific. That means fewer nutrients reaching the surface. With fewer nutrients, marine food chains can be disrupted. Fish populations may shift. Fisheries can suffer. Seabirds and marine mammals may be affected because the food they rely on is no longer where it usually is. A warmer ocean surface may look calm from above, but below it, the biological rhythm can be thrown badly out of balance. Human health also enters the story. Heat stress becomes more serious when temperatures rise and nights stay warm. Drought may reduce water availability. Flooding can damage sanitation and create conditions that increase disease risk. Food insecurity can worsen when harvests fail. In some places, changing rainfall and water storage patterns may influence mosquito-borne disease risks. So when we say El Niño is a climate event, we are also saying it can become a public health event. For Thailand and much of Southeast Asia, El Niño matters because it can influence rainfall and heat in ways that touch agriculture, reservoirs, and everyday living costs. People do not need to memorize ocean physics to feel the consequences. If the hot season becomes harder, if rain arrives differently, if crops struggle, if water management becomes more tense, daily life starts to change. Electricity use can rise, farm planning becomes harder, food markets feel pressure. Suddenly, the Pacific Ocean is no longer a distant geography lesson, it is part of household reality. A common misunderstanding is to confuse El Niño with climate change as if they are the same thing. They are not. El Niño is a naturally occurring climate pattern. Climate change is the long-term warming of the planet, driven mainly by human activities, especially greenhouse gas emissions. But here's the important twist. The two can overlap. When El Niño adds warmth on top of an already warming world, some impacts can become more intense. That's why El Niño years often attract extra global attention. Natural variability is acting on top of a hotter baseline. Another misunderstanding is that El Niño appears on a neat schedule. It does not. It tends to recur every few years, but not like clockwork. Some events are weak, some are moderate, some become very strong. Their impacts are not identical because the atmosphere is complicated, local conditions differ, and no 2 years are a perfect copy of each other. That unpredictability is part of why scientists monitor the Pacific so closely. The good news is that prediction has improved. Scientists track sea surface temperatures, subsurface ocean heat, winds, pressure patterns, and atmospheric signals to estimate whether El Niño, La Niña, or neutral conditions are developing. Forecasting is not magic, but it gives governments, farmers, emergency planners, and health systems valuable time to prepare. Early warning can help with crop planning, reservoir management, heat response, disease prevention, and disaster readiness. So, as of March 2026, global monitoring centers do not describe the world as being firmly in El Niño right now. The short-term outlook leans more toward neutral conditions, but there's also a meaningful chance that El Niño could emerge again later in 2026. That matters because El Niño is not just a past headline, it's a recurring risk that can return and reshape planning decisions months in advance. So, what should ordinary people take from all this? First, distant climate systems are not distant in their consequences. Second, weather extremes are easier to understand when we remember the ocean is part of the atmosphere's engine. Third, preparedness matters. If you live in a place affected by heat, drought, flood, or crop stress, climate awareness is not a luxury, it is practical survival. El Niño teaches us something humbling. The world is deeply connected. A shift in wind over tropical waters can echo through farms, cities, forests, hospitals, and dinner tables across the globe. It's one of the clearest reminders that Earth does not operate in separate pieces. Ocean, air, land, food, and human life move together. And that may be the most unsettling part of all. Most people never see El Niño directly. There's no giant wall in the sky with its name on it. There's just a slightly warmer ocean, a slightly weaker wind, a slightly altered pattern. But from those slightly changes, entire seasons can be rewritten. So the next time you hear the term El Niño, don't treat it like a decorative weather word. Think of it as a hidden hand turning the knobs of the planet's climate system. Because when the Pacific changes its mood, the rest of the world often ends up feeling it. Do you think people still underestimate how much the ocean controls everyday life? Tell me in the comments. And if you enjoy videos that turn complicated science into clear, watchable stories, like, share, and follow WiseUse.